All right, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you had a good one. Happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Arbor Day, happy Asshole Day, happy Ballsack Day.
It's always Asshole Day here in America, isn't it?
Yes. I hope you guys have a good New Year's, too. We got New Year's coming up. Couldn't stay away for too long. Had some stuff that we wanted to talk about. So there is officially a colossal MAGA civil war that just popped off. I believe it started on Christmas. And the dividing lines are Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk versus basically everybody else in MAGA. Now, the big boss man hasn't said a word about it yet. I think that's actually rather strategic. I don't think he's going to weigh in on this or wants to weigh in on this, but he's sitting back and watching. So basically what you have are the libertarian tech bros on the right versus the white nationalists on the right. And they are now going at it hard. So, Crystal, I'll let you lay it out for everybody what's happening.
Yeah, so it all got sparked by Laura Loomer took issue with some Indian-born tech dude that Trump announced was going to be head of AI. And he had said some things in the past about how he wanted to have more, quote-unquote, high-skilled immigration. And so she starts freaking out about that. And then that triggered pushback from Elon and Vivek and resulted in an absolutely incredible post from Vivek about how, in actuality, there aren't enough Americans who were talented enough to take these positions, who are skilled enough to take these positions at tech companies, and that if we want to win again, we need to be basically more like, like a Tiger Mom type of culture. But he took aim directly at like a bunch of 90s era sitcoms, which is
kind of don't never do that, bro. You're just asking for it at that point. Because remember, he also came to prominence by doing a massive scam.
Right. No, that's how he's a billionaire. That's how he made his billions.
Yes.
He's not a tech guy. He's like a Wall Street dude.
Yeah, he's a scam artist.
Bought this Alzheimer drug patent.
Which had failed four different trials.
Correct. And then effectively did a pump and dump with it.
Exactly. He started bragging, this is the future. Oh, we actually have something. We're going to do further testing. You guys need to invest in it now because we swear this is going to be the future. We swear this thing is going to work.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, of course, it all blew up. But it was a pump and dump.
Yeah.
And he ran out the back door with all the money.
So before I read this just truly chef's kiss Vivek Ramaswamy post, the meat of the policy disagreement here is over what's called H-1B visas, which are sort of foreign guest worker permits that tech companies avail themselves of, especially large tech companies, because there's a significant process you have to go through. You're supposed to have to prove that there's no American-born worker who can fill the job. And so every year there's a certain number of these visas available. It's 85,000 that's available a year. Usually they go to Amazon, Google, the big players get a few thousand each. And the Elon Musks of the world, whose primary goal is just capitalist exploitation, regardless of race or ethnicity, they love this program because it makes those workers fully dependent on that corporation. So if the corporation says, I no longer need you, then you have to leave. You have to leave the country. So lefties have an issue oftentimes with the nature of this program, even, lefties who support more immigration, which I'm one of those lefties who supports more immigration. They have an issue with some of the specifics of the program because it is very exploitative. And it makes it so that tech companies can pay these workers less than, they're truly worth. And that does undercut American workers who they're competing with and makes it so that they're effectively, in the words of Ann Coulter, indentured servants.
That's what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
That Ann Coulter on Twitter said that this program is basically like indentured servitude. And they have the program in place so they can bring in cheaper foreign workers and have them completely dependent on the company. And by your analysis, what you're saying is that's actually objectively true.
That is true. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Ro Khanna, who represents Silicon Valley and obviously is progressive, he supports reforms to the H-1B visa program. He doesn't support getting rid of it. But, it also gets into all this, obviously on the right, it gets into all this weird racial stuff because you have some segments of the right that are basically Asian supremacist, and Vivek kind of outs himself as one of those.
Right.
And then they're coming into conflict with the portions of the right that are white supremacists that are no, we're the superior racing should, get all the spoils, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, read some of the posts.
With all
read
of
some of the
that being
Vivek
said,
posts.
you have to hear this post because this is incredible. So Vivek.
So, and this was
tweets,
unprompted when he said this, right?
Not unprompted. This is after Loomer started picking this fight over quote unquote high skilled foreign born workers, which, are disproportionately Indian. So this ends up being about like Indians and Vivek.
So it's an attempt.
Indian origin. Yeah.
It's an attempt to dunk on Laura Loomer. Then that's basically where this stems from.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. So he says, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers.
Oh, let me just pause you there real quick. What a nerd! You can't do that. This is America. You can't be like, hey, fuck the prom queen, fuck the quarterback of the football team.
Olympiad.
Yeah. Like, bro, this is... No wonder the white nationalists got upset. This is like an arrow straight to the heart of like their whole vision. But honestly, I'll say something maybe controversial here. That's also, he really is just attacking some basic America shit. You're going to read more in a second.
Yeah.
There's one line that I was like, how could you say something like that? I'll let you keep reading. It's the mall one.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So he says, a culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World. Or
bro, that's like one of the goated shows of all time, Boy Meets World.
Or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell. Which, by the way, people pointed out, apparently, Zach Morris got
a higher
SAT on his SAT and went to like Yale or something like that. Or Stefan, is that what it is? Over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers.
By the way, nobody put Stefan over Steve Urkel. The show was about Urkel. Stefan was in like 5 episodes. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
I couldn't even remember.
Oh, this is so confused. This is a real mask off moment.
Oh, yeah.
Because the sense of this is very like, fuck Americana, right?
Well,
like, that's the sense of it.
It's that. And it's also the sense of like, he was like a nerdy, awkward kid who got rejected by the cool kids.
And so he did a fucking pump and dump and became a billionaire.
Right. And so he, comforted himself. And there's a lot of this with, Elon as well. These people that just like venerate like quote unquote IQ, which also starts to flirt with a lot of eugenicists.
It's such pseudoscience too. I hate the fucking IQ obsessed people.
Absolutely.
It's like as if that one test can tell you in every dimension somebody's intelligence. Like, we all know people who are fucking brilliant in one specific area and not so much in other areas. And like, everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And the idea that one test can sort of like just objectively break it, that's so fucking stupid.
Yes, indeed. All right, we're going to continue with this because it's incredible. Fact. I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall.
You're gonna attack hanging out at the mall in the United States of America. That was our whole fucking childhood was at the fucking mall.
The other thing is, okay, also, I mean, obviously these references are 30 years dated.
True,
right? At the least, okay?
But it's right in our wheelhouse where it's like, now I feel like you're attacking me.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is like, actually, the culture was better when there was like
100%.
a mall hangout culture and these sitcoms that were kind of like universally watched
and, by the way,
very harmless and sweet, by the way.
Well, that's
usually had some sort of like a moral, sweet, family-centered message or whatever.
That's why this makes absolutely no sense. You go back and watch episodes of Family Matters or Boy Meets World or any of the TGIF shows, or like all of it, underlying it is just like a basic human decency and morality and like liberal values of like treat other people fairly, etc.
Yeah,
to shit on
Jesse
that is like
got hooked on caffeine pills. Like that really taught me a lot about substance abuse, and I think that's part of why I've had the success in my life I have. Anyway, Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kind of kids with scorn. If you grew up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China.
This is the most elitist shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
This is so elitist. This is like accept the dog-eat-dog cutthroat world of global capitalism and try to fit into the machine as best you can. In other words, like, you serve the economy doesn't serve you.
And even darker than that is like, not just for yourself, but you better, from the time your kids come out of the womb, every minute of their time had better be spent on math tutoring. Friends, sleepovers, no. Hanging out at the mall, enjoying some like mass-produced content, no. They need to be doing their tutoring. They need to be at the math Olympiads. They need to be trained to become better cogs in the machine for the capitalist overlords like Elon Musk. If they're going to make it, that's what this is about. This is your worth is only as much as your market value is. You don't bring anything to the table except whatever, Elon Musk thinks that you're worth, however primed you are for being like, useful in this exploitative way, in this exploitative system. It's really, it really is an incredible, outside of many people also pointed out, the way he's talking about white American culture is how conservatives very commonly talk about like Black American culture or Hispanic culture, usually Black culture. And then, so he uses that same frame and now implies it to white American culture and is basically asserting here that Asian American culture is superior and needs to be emulated. And obviously that didn't go over terribly well.
And he has the nerve to pretend most of the time like he's anti-elitist. Right. Yeah. This is the most elitist shit I've ever heard in my life.
Totally. And it's just, the other thing is, there's so much to say about this because there have been a lot of very clear ideological just fissures within this weird coalition that Trump had this time. And, some of it is hard to put your finger on because what the fuck does Trump even believe or stand for? Like, he's not a particularly ideological person. But Trump has run on this, I'm looking out for the non-college educated, like non-elite class. That's how he positions himself. And they truly have achieved this very dramatic realignment where now non-college educated voters are, regardless of race, overall, if you look at the overall numbers, more likely to vote Republican. He won for the first time voters who are making less than $50,000 a year. And so in the face of that education realignment, to have Vivek come in and basically be like, if your kids aren't on an Ivy League track from the time they're 2 years old, like you've failed as a parent and we're failing as a nation, is really, that really is directly at odds with the way Trumpism has been sold since 2015.
But here's the thing. Elon and Vivek are effectively going to win this policy battle within the Trump administration, I think. Because this is the direction the capital cuts. And Trump is effectively ruled by capital.
Well, here's the thing too. So it's David Sachs has already been made czar of like AI and crypto or something like that. And Elon and Vivek have been given this whole of government mandate. But Elon put in $250 million into this campaign. And all these MAGA people, like Elon's ideology is very easily attainable. Like, it's not hard to know what he stands for and what his goals and what his class interests are. This is something I've been talking about, you've been talking about. Like, it's all out there.
He's a robber baron. He's a robber
baron. And he's a big fan of, like, Javier Milei.
Anarcho-capitalism for thee, but not for me. I get government subsidies. I get corporate welfare. I get to do whatever I want. I can loot the treasury. But for you...
Right.
Suck it up and try to earn it in the free market where, everybody will make lower wages and have no fucking health care and be living in tenement housing shortly and they'll bring back child labor and all that shit.
Yeah, and Trump has been willing to totally change his views to suit this crowd. So,
But I think he's always believed this to one extent or another, Trump.
Well, he has this very, like, eugenicist adjacent idea, like a IQ obsession and that sort of thing, too.
But I'm also just talking about the anarcho-capitalist worldview mixed with that's for you, but not for me. That's always been Trump. He cut taxes for the rich. He deregulated.
I mean, he does believe in tariffs, I think. And
that's true.
That's very much
that's
at odds
true.
with Elon.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there are certain things that he completely flipped on. So crypto is a primary example where he used to say crypto was a scam to undermine the dollar.
And I was right.
Now he wants to do this Bitcoin reserve, which is just a blatant giveaway to these
Yeah, and that's because he took money from these crypto assholes,
that's
and that's why he flipped. Same with the banning of TikTok.
Yes.
Now, I don't want TikTok banned, to be clear,
Yeah.
but he was for banning it, and then
and
after...
he completely flipped.
Yeah, because that Jeffrey Yass dude gave him a shitload of money.
So I think you're right. I think the deal has already been struck here. And we know that because when Trump went on the All In podcast, which is like, you know, David Sachs and whoever, there's like Jamal Polyhopity and Jason, whatever his last name is. Anyway, those dudes, it's like the tech bro podcast. He said that he wanted to increase the amount of, he said the thing that Hillary Clinton used to say of like, when you graduate from a college here, they should staple the green card to your diploma. And the reason I know that is because Sagar took really close note of that. Sagar being a like extreme immigration restrictionist, noted right away like, oh, Trump told them what they wanted to hear, this issue that's very important to this tech bro universe of increasing quote unquote high skilled immigration, because they like the ability to, you know, pay workers less and have them at their beck and call, etc. So Trump already caved on this and announced it months ago. And that's the other part that's really noteworthy is like, you know, Laura Loomer didn't have shit to say about it then when it was Trump saying it, because it can never be like Trump that's the problem, right? So it's Vivek, it's Elon, etc. But Trump has himself said, you know, he didn't say this weird like 90s sitcom stuff that Vivek said, but he has taken this very same policy position and nobody in Maga had a word to say about it.
And now Elon has been melting down hardcore on the time. So he's entered these Twitter spaces under his alt account, and he actually debates people using his normal voice.
Well, apparently, one thing I was reading is when he slows down his speech, he has some sort of a voice like modulator or whatever that makes his voice sound different. But when he gets too animated and talks too quickly, it doesn't keep up. And so then it just sounds like his voice.
Yeah.
So there's this weirdness where sometimes he sounds weird and different, and sometimes it's just Elon.
Do you have any of Elon's tweets up or no?
No, I can pull some up.
Yeah, go ahead. And because guys, he's debating these like outright white nationalist Nazi types in these Twitter spaces, and it's one of those like you reap what you sow moments. like you fucked around and you found out you cultivated this colossal following of MAGA types, and some of them, you know, the mask is slipping on. Some of them didn't even bother to put on a mask in the fucking first place. And then now you say the thing about immigration and they're like, did you think we would make an exception when it comes to immigrants because they make more money? Like no, to them, it's like, we want to keep America white, and they are open about that fact. So like, fuck you. So now you see all these, and it's funny because I was going after Elon Musk before it was cool. I was the one tweeting, deport this robber baron immigrant welfare queen, right? And now you see the right flank of MAGA, they're now using Grok and other things like that to make pictures of Elon in the most humiliating scenarios possible. I won't go into any specifics, but like everybody is seemingly catching up to that, and he's responding to that in the worst possible way, because it's like in a moment like this. But look, for those of you who aren't in this space, you wouldn't understand, but just don't read it. Like, don't read the criticism. Just go fucking touch grass, as the kids say, and you'll be all right. But he can't help himself. He's addicted to the internet, and he's massively autistic. And so he goes down these rabbit holes, and now he's basically fighting on the TL with anybody, everybody. And by the way, Elon decided to retaliate against Laura Loomer and a bunch of other conservative commentators who were disagreeing with him, and take away their blue check marks and take away their ability to make money on X. Like, he's doing the shit that this is what he does. This is what the robber baron bitch does, is he acts like he's all about free speech. The second you cross him, he turns fully authoritarian. He loves Javier Milei. That's what Javier Milei did. Oh, all about freedom, all about free speech. Oh, are there massive protests in the streets? Let's send the police to crack down on the protests, crack some skulls, and lock these people up. Total fucking fraud. Total fraud. But what's beautiful is that now there's a lot of people on the right realizing it, and they've turned on Elon, and I'm enjoying it for one.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, it's like, may they both lose. May both sides lose.
Of course,
right?
yeah, let them fight. Let them fight.
So that account called Autism Capital.
This guy's an Elon meat rider.
Yeah, tweeted this, and then Elon was like, agreed with it, says that pretty much sums it up. This was eye-opening. So so the Autism Capital guy tweets, so basically the right split into two factions, tech right and right. And the tech right is like, hey, we need H-1B visa people to do the jobs. And the right was like, no, you need to hire Americans. And the tech right is like, but you guys are retarded. And the right is like, well, you don't train us. And the tech right is like, you can't out-train being retarded.
Oh.
And while all this was going on, we learned some people really don't like Indians. And that's what Elon replied. That pretty much sums it up. So
he's saying Americans are retarded. He's saying Americans are retarded and you can't do these jobs.
You're too retarded to do these jobs.
No, he really does have a eugenicist worldview.
He does.
And just like Trump.
True to his South African roots.
Just like Trump, he thinks everything is innate. That culture and environment and society doesn't have an impact. It's just you are what you are at birth, period.
Yeah.
And that's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, almost everything is a mix of nature and nurture.
Well, I was just remembering during the election campaign, Elon tweeted this meme that shows like, you know, the bell curve of IQ and said basically MAGA was the people down here who were like extremely low IQ. And then these people out here like him, presumably, who were like extremely high IQ, brilliant. And I don't know why no one in MAGA took offense to that at the time, because it's like, he obviously thinks the bulk of you are in this like extremely low IQ portion of the bell curve. And he's just using you as a means to his end. That's what it is. And what has he accomplished so far? They were, you know, had this bill negotiated in Congress, bipartisan bill that's supposed to fund the government and do a lot of stuff that genuinely is good, like the pharmacy, cracking down on the pharmacy
PBMs,
benefit managers, right. Funding kids' cancer research. Yep. You know, there were genuinely like positive priorities that were included in there. And it was all going smooth sailing. The Republicans had agreed, the Democrats agreed, blah, blah, blah. And then Elon decides to throw a fit over it and tanks the bill. And lo and behold, what gets pulled out, not only those things that I just mentioned, which were good things, but this provision, which would have limited high-tech investment in China.
That's why he did it.
Would have directly impacted him.
That's why he did it.
Some AI research thing for Tesla in China. So you tell me why he tanked the bill, and then suddenly, even though it was, you know, kind of had a lot of the same contours, etc., that when it comes back and it doesn't have the China bullshit, then he's good with it.
Yeah,
then he's good with it.
That's why he did it, because he's a robber baron. He cares about profit above all else, and he's using MAGA, he's using Trump towards those ends, and it's even more nefarious because he wants to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and so does fucking Vivek Ramaswamy. And here's this guy lecturing everybody about hard work and culture, and he made his money through a fucking pump and dump scam.
Yeah.
So do me a favor and www.shutit.com. Nobody gives a fuck what you have to say, and now even MAGA's turning on you. But the thing is, this is what pisses me off, is everybody knew the thing, or they should have known the thing about Vivek Ramaswamy and how he made his money, the scam he ran. But they didn't care back when he was saying things they agreed with. And there were a lot of talk about this on Twitter, that there was a time where seemingly he was against these H-1B visas, and then now he seemingly flips. You say it's a little more complicated than that like he was sort of covering his ass and talking out of both sides of his mouth about
That's my impression, is that he was saying things like, we need to blow up this system, but what he really meant was like, blow it up and make it so that there's more of these types of workers coming in, but just through a somewhat different system than exists currently.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like, the idea that, well, high-skilled immigrants, it's like saying, yeah, we love immigrants, but only in the tech sector. That's it. For our industry, for our business, we want immigrants. But, you know, for other sectors where there's a lot of immigrants working, no, we don't need that.
Well, and none of it is to benefit, you know, anything other than
their
themselves.
bottom line. Exactly.
Their bottom line.
They're frauds. They're total fucking frauds.
It's not like they care for these immigrants. They want to exploit them.
Right.
And, you know, that's the bottom line. And so they're happy to throw any group under the bus, because that's what, like, you don't get to be a billionaire without just being willing to engage in the most exploitative practices. And same thing with, you know, there's all this talk of Trump and his outreach to labor, and he put someone in at the Department of Labor he voted for the PRO Act and is slightly less bad on union issues than every other Republican. Elon hates labor unions. I mean, he is a union buster.
Him and Trump were laughing about that together on the phone call, remember?
Like, chuckling about how he's firing striking workers. He is right now challenging the constitutionality of the National Labor Relations Board, which just, if that agency was killed, then it would effectively decimate any hope of union organizing. He thinks unions should be illegal. So again, Trump is not a very ideological figure, and a lot of what he says is bullshit. So it's hard to say like where the lines are exactly. But Elon is totally different ideologically than how Trumpism was sold. And this is really kind of the tip of the iceberg here. But what I would say is like, I don't know what you thought you were getting. Because number one, just as a matter of principle, whether it's Elon or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or whatever the fuck billionaire is out there, like, don't hand your government over. Don't delightedly. And they were delighted. They were delighted to have Elon on their side. They were delighted by the money he was giving. They were delighted. Remember all those memes they were showing of like Elon as some superhero next to Trump and whatever. Like, MAGA was so happy to have him involved. And it's like, guess what? He's a billionaire. He's interested in his own ideology, in his own self-interest, and he does not give a fuck about you or Donald Trump for that matter. He gives a fuck about Elon. That is it. So as a matter of principle, you need to oppose having these billionaires have so much control over government, because whether it's this issue or another, he is not going to have your best interest at heart, and his power is effectively completely unchecked. I mean, he's outside any sort of a representative, system where there could be any sort of democratic check on his power. So it's a very dystopian place to be.
That's why the capitulation to Doge was so sad, right? You see these Democrats joining the Doge caucus, and it's like, you are agreeing in principle that there should be this agency of the government run by the world's richest man who's a robber baron, and whatever the decisions he makes about government efficiency are legitimate and should be discussed. Why the fuck should his opinions be taken seriously in the realm of what's supposed to be a democracy?
Well, it's the total opposite, because his opinions should be the last thing we consider, because he has such so many conflicts of interest.
Correct.
I mean, this is one of the Pentagon's largest contractors.
Right.
He is embroiled in regulatory disputes with multiple agencies just right now as we speak. He's been accused by the SEC of insider trading, securities fraud. All of these things are swirling, and you're going to put him in a position to hurt his competitors, give himself more contracts, cut any of the regulatory agencies that might go after him and his company's been accused of, discrimination and labor violation, all kinds of stuff. And he can just effectively slash and burn anything that might possibly reign in his power, and that's always been his goal, and that's always been totally crystal clear.
Well, I'll just say I'm really hoping that he keeps melting down, he keeps humiliating himself, that Vivek does the same, and I'm hoping Trump gets wise about this, because he is known, the second he needs a fall guy, that fall guy could be fucking anybody. And if he sees an opportunity, if he sees an opening, if something goes wrong and he gets to say, it was Elon, it was Vivek, he will 100% do it. And I'm just hoping that day comes sooner, and then maybe he'll actually get deported, which is what I want to see. I want to see the immigrant welfare queen robber baron get deported and humiliated.
The last thing I'll say about this is I mentioned before, Trump had said the same shit about H-1B visas before, and they had nothing to say about it. And so even if he does move forward with with the policy that Elon and Vivek basically would like to see, all the same people are going to be running cover for him. Oh, it's not his fault. He got tricked by Elon. I mean, that's what they always do. They never come after him, right? Because he's the one who accepted the $250 million and gave Elon and Vivek this post and made them so incredibly influential.
To be fair, in his mind, he could have thought this was a way of sort of getting them off his ass, right? Because it's not an actual government position. It's sort of made up.
Yeah,
and in his mind, he could be thinking go play in the corner, you fucking freaks.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I mean, you don't put $250 million into a presidential election and get nothing out of it.
But now the President Musk thing is getting under Trump's skin. You got to admit that. The President Musk thing is getting under his skin.
Yeah, that's
And there was already, he already said at some speech he gave, he already said something that was like, Elon can't be president. You want to know why? Because he wasn't born here. Haha. And to me, that sounded almost like a shot across the bow. Like, if you overstep your boundary again, I might actually. But the thing is.
But the other thing is, this is convenient for him. If Elon and Vivek take the heat for this, like, you know, H-1B visa stuff or other unpopular things, then he gets to pretend like, oh, you know, it's their fault, and gives his sycophants people to blame that aren't him, which is what they always do. Maybe it's convenient for him.
Yeah, well, like you always say, wherever he goes is where they go. You know, like he is the needle. He gets to do whatever, and then they will play catch up and be like, I agree. But he's the only one that can get away with that.
Yeah.
Right? But I actually think he ideologically does agree with the idea of bringing in more high-skilled immigrants and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, he uses a lot of guest worker, you know, foreign-born guest workers at his properties. It's not, I don't think it's H-1B visas, but it's like another guest worker program. Like, he obviously believes in it. J.D. Vance is an interesting one here, too, because on the one hand, like, he would never speak in quite the language that Vivek did, but in the other hand, Hillbilly Elegy is also basically an indictment of, like, white non-college culture. Like, that's kind of the core of the book, is like, you know, you're drinking too much Mountain Dew, and like
that movie, Hillbilly Elegy, was the most elitist shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It was so fucking elitist. It was so classist.
Yeah.
It was this idea of like, yeah, you guys are a fucking mess. You gotta fucking get it together.
Right.
As opposed to looking at the systemic reasons why you've had a decline in place, you know, in these former factory towns that have been destroyed by globalization.
Yeah, and
right?
He's basically on the ticket because the tech bros, the Peter Thiels of the world and whoever, they wanted him on the ticket. That's how he ends up on the ticket. And so he has kind of a similar ideology. He's married to an Indian woman also, which, you know, makes this whole thing even more interesting. But on the other hand, he also has this shtick about, like, you know, this like pseudo anti-capitalist rhetoric that he'll use about American workers, and, you know, like, it's a little bit contradictory, and his focus
he'll
on
go right along with the capital.
You know, religion and family and community and whatever. But yeah, I think I mean that's why he's there. Because they think he's an ally to whatever it is that they want to do, and he himself is like a Wall Street dude.
These people are such frauds because they're so elitist in every imaginable way, and they're tied to Wall Street and venture capital and all that sort of shit. But they try to pretend like they're the everyman, right? And then there's lefties like us who, I fucking love Boy Meets World. I love them all. We eat McDonald's all the time. We go to our fucking kids' soccer game all the fucking, like, we're living the most American fucking life ever. But they found a way to twist it and try to pretend like we're the elitist ones and they're not. It's like, bitch, you did a pump and dump scheme. You're tied to venture capital. You're tied to Wall Street. You got all these fucking opinions that are so elitist, not to throw them under the bus, but it's a similar dynamic with Sagar too. Like, Sagar is very sort of high society type dude. The way he dresses, the trips he goes on. And it's like, I get on a plane once every fucking 2 years and I hate it every time I go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, people need to understand the actual populace are the lefties. Are the lefties who are actually trying to improve working conditions for people, trying to protect Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, not trying to outsource your job. Yeah. But they don't fucking learn.
No, and this may be the first of many experiences of, like, you know, the leopard face eating thing of like, oh, you know, on the one hand, from the Elon and Vivek perspective, like, oh, I didn't think a bunch of people who were like, you know, thirsting to deport every immigrant would want to deport the immigrants I like, right? And then from the sort of like base perspective, like, what you didn't, when you invited the billionaire, the richest man on the planet into the coalition, you didn't think that was going to have any policy ramifications in terms of what his interests were going to be. And this will be the first of many examples. I mean,
Medicare and Social Security is going to be the next one because Trump was very clear, I'm not going to cut Medicare, I'm not going to cut Social Security. And every single donor to him, every person around him, and every Republican politician is chomping at the bit to cut those things first and foremost. They're not going to cut the fucking Pentagon. They're not going to cut Elon's corporate welfare, which means what's left? The social safety net,
That's right.
Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And so my guess is Trump is going to go along with that, and he's going to spin it as we're reforming the system to save it, even though it'll just be cuts.
I read this very sad article in Washington Post, I think, about Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which is a place I actually know decently well. I've spent a little bit of time there, and it's very economically depressed. I mean, it's this former like steel town, Pennsylvania, whatever, huge economic decline and very high rates of poverty there. And for the first time since Eisenhower, they narrowly voted for a Republican, Trump, this time in the election. And lots of people there who are on food stamps and, various different social safety net type programs. And so they went, and it's an overwhelmingly white city too. It's sort of like, ethnic white, former waves of immigration settled in this town. Anyway, so they went and they interviewed these people, and they were like, what do you think now that Vivek and Elon are out here, like, we want to slash $2 trillion from the government budget, and they're taking aim at these social safety net programs? And it was a real mix of responses. Some people were like, oh, he'll understand, like, the poor people put him in there and he would never take something away from us. I think
Fell for it again award.
Yeah, exactly. And then some other people were just like, well, I hope, I'm not sure. I'm getting a little nervous about it. But yeah, that'll be the next like sad awakening, because clearly they have their eyes set on slashing and burning the government. It's a long time right-wing like Koch brothers project, and Elon is just like the new version of that ideological project. It's really nothing new.
So we'll hold down the left flank and keep absolutely humiliating and shitting on Elon Musk because he deserves every single goddamn word, and I'll put it out there to Maga as well. You can keep doing the same thing, because I am enjoying him losing this position atop the mountain, right? Because he never fucking deserved it. He's a robber baron, welfare queen, immigrant prick. And I really hope he gets deported. I don't think that's going to happen, but nonetheless, I'll still keep tweeting about it on a daily basis.